What if there was a book so cursed that simply reading it could bring unimaginable terror into your life? This video delves into the mysterious and haunting history of the Book of St. Cyprian, a legendary grimorio feared for the dark forces it's said to unleash. With forbidden rituals and ancient spells, it has terrified those who dared to open its pages. Stay until the end to uncover the shocking attempts made to contain its power and what happened to those who failed. St. Cyprian, also known as Cyprian, of Antioch, was a sorcerer and wizard with profound knowledge of the dark arts in the ancient city of Antioch during the 3rd century. His life was marked by magic and occultism from an early age, having been initiated into witchcraft practices. In lands such as Egypt and Chaldea, where he was said to have acquired wisdom on invocations and forbidden rituals, Cyprian was known for his extraordinary abilities to summon spirits and control supernatural forces, which earned him the reputation of being one of the most powerful sorcerers of his time. His legend, however, not only revolves around his power, but also around a transformation he underwent after meeting a young Christian woman named Justina, whose faith was so strong that it resisted his attempts at casting spells. This encounter led him to a spiritual crisis which eventually culminated in his conversion to Christianity. Cyprian burned his old books of magic and renounced his pacts with shadowy entities, choosing instead a path of faith and redemption. Yet, despite his conversion, Cyprian's influence on magic and occultism did not vanish. Over time, stories began circulating about a grimoire supposedly containing his teachings, known as the Book of St. Cyprian. This book would become one of the most feared relics in the esoteric world, as it was said to contain the knowledge Cyprian had accumulated before abandoning black magic. Within it, powerful and dark rituals were described which many attempted to perform, though most paid a high price for it. Inside the Book of St. Cyprian, known as the Cursed Grimoire, is a vast collection of forbidden knowledge, invocation rituals, and spells capable of unleashing forces beyond human comprehension. It wasn't merely a simple book of magic. Its pages held secrets that only those with the mental and spiritual disposition to confront the unknown could understand, and very few emerged unscathed from this experience. This grimoire is particularly feared for its invocations to demons and dark spirits of various ranks. Each entity described within the book possessed a specialty, from vengeful spirits fulfilling revenge desires to demons granting powers to influence others' will. Cyprian supposedly documented, based on personal experience, the names, attributes, and methods to control these beings, offering detailed instructions for each invocation. However, each ritual bore enormous risk, as even the slightest error in execution could open doors that would never close again. Another unsettling aspect of the book was its protection enchantments. To conduct his practices without falling under the control of the very forces he invoked, Cyprian developed a complex system of symbols, seals, and words of power that, according to the book's instructions, needed to be inscribed around invocation sites. These symbols not only physically protected the practitioner, but also acted as an anchor to keep their spirit grounded in the earthly world while navigating between dimensions. According to the grimoire, these seals were only effective if the invoker had purified their mind and body through prior rituals. Later accounts mention that many attempted these spells without proper preparation, with tragic consequences. The grimoire also contained knowledge on manipulating energies and invisible forces. It was said that Cyprian had managed to capture the very essence of natural phenomena, such as storms, fire, or water, and translate them into rituals that granted control over these elements. One of the most feared enchantments was the Rite of Disintegration, which promised to grant the conjurer the power to destroy any physical matter, though at an immense cost. The words accompanying this rite were complex and barely decipherable, and the few who attempted them, according to records, perished after unleashing a destructive force they couldn't control. A central mystery of the grimoire was its final section, which contained no words but pages covered in arcane symbols and ink stains that seemed to shift when one attempted to read them. This section was known as the Passage of Oblivion and was, said to contain the pathway to other dimensions or planes of existence. Adjacent texts warned of the dangers of crossing this threshold, claiming that only those who managed to comprehend the hidden patterns in the stains would return with their mind intact. Many scholars and occultists who studied the grimoire later tried to decode the enigmatic pie. Cyprian's final warning was directed at those blinded by ambition, who wished to use the book to obtain ultimate power. The grimoire offered a sacrificial ritual capable of sealing an eternal pact between the summoner and an unknown force, described only as the Watcher in the Shadows. In exchange for a portion of their soul, this pact granted mystical knowledge, supernatural abilities, and unique protection against rival forces. However, the cost was high as the conjurer became a sort of host for this force, which could drain their vital energy at any moment. During the Middle Ages, the grimoire of Saint Cyprian became notorious for the disasters and paranormal phenomena that surrounded it. As the book passed, from one person to another, an unsettling pattern emerged. Cyprian's curse seemed to haunt all who possessed it. One of the most striking accounts comes from Galicia, Spain, where a Franciscan monk named Bernardo discovered the grimoire in the crypt of his monastery. Horrified by the book's content, he attempted to destroy it repeatedly, but according to his testimony, a dark force guarded its pages, preventing any attempt to harm it. Fearing the consequences of keeping the book in the monastery, the monk chose to hide it in an inaccessible place. Yet this did not stop the grimoire's dark influence. Monks reported hearing voices and seeing shadows lurking within the walls. Plants near the monastery began to wither without explanation, and animals avoided approaching the building. Some witnesses claimed to have seen dark figures inside the monastery, gliding along the walls in the dead of night. Eventually, the situation became so unbearable that the abbot decided to exorcise the place, but to no avail. The grimoire remained hidden, waiting for its next victim. In 1607, a group of looters seeking ancient relics accidentally stumbled upon the hidden chamber, where Bernardo had concealed the grimoire. Ignoring the warnings etched into the walls, they opened the chamber and seized the book. It didn't take long for the curse to take effect. A chilling murmur filled their minds, a sound that only they could hear. Unable to bear the mental strain, they decided to sell the book, but none managed to complete the transaction. One by one, the looters were found dead across the city, each with an expression of absolute terror frozen on their faces. Over time, the grimoire found its way into the hands of occultists and sorcerers drawn by its promise of power. Among the most infamous was Elias Thorne, a member of an ancient cult in England. Fearing the consequences of opening the book, Thorne hid it in a remote mansion far from civilization. However, the mansion's new residents soon began to experience inexplicable phenomena. From the very first night, they heard wails and witnessed terrifying visions in the mirrors. Shadows seemed to come to life, and the atmosphere grew heavier by the day until a dark presence finally took physical form, leading to the entire family's mental collapse. Upon hearing the ominous rumors about the grimoire, a group of friars from a remote monastery in the Transylvanian mountains decided to intervene to contain its evil. Known for their expertise in exorcisms, these friars encountered chilling phenomena as they attempted to purify the mansion. During the exorcism rite, the walls creaked and a cold wind swept through the rooms, extinguishing candles and plunging the entire place into a terrifying darkness. One of the friars began praying in Latin, and at that moment the grimoire started to emit a persistent murmur, as though it were responding to the holy words. Realizing the peril the book presented, the friars managed to seal it within a leaden box adorned with ancient crucifixes. They took the grimoire back to the monastery, hoping it would remain contained there. Yet they themselves knew that their efforts might not be enough. The curse of Cyprian was ancient and powerful, capable of breaking free at any time. Nevertheless, they concealed it deep within the convent's catacombs, praying that no one else would ever find it. The peace within the monastery didn't last long. In 1910, a renowned alchemist named Horace Vane, infamous for his obsessive studies in forbidden arts, arrived at the monastery with his followers, ignoring all warnings about the grimoire. As they progressed through the dark catacombs, the group began to notice an unnatural chill, and their breathing grew heavier. Vane pushed open the heavy stone door guarding the grimoire's chamber, and upon doing so, the atmosphere turned into a sea of darkness and despair. As Vane reached to touch the book, he witnessed a surge of dark energy that consumed the souls of his followers. One by one they collapsed, their bodies convulsing as they let out blood-curdling screams. Paralyzed with horror, Vane watched as the book absorbed the very essence of his companions, feeding off their fear and anguish. Unable to bear the sight, he fled the convent, but he could never escape the memory of that night. He never spoke of the incident again, leaving the grimoire in the depths of the catacombs, intact and awaiting new victims. After decades of rumors and tragedies, a group of priests in Transylvania decided in 1952 to rid the world of the grimoire, once and for all. They believed the only place where it could remain hidden was at the ocean's floor, far from any human reach. The priests contacted a captain, Anatoly Grigorov, who agreed to the dangerous mission of casting the book into the Black Sea on a dark, stormy night. The leaden box, wrapped in chains and blessed with prayers, was thrown into the deep waters. Yet the night's silence was broken by an unsettling echo, as though the grimoire resisted its confinement in the abyss. But this was not the end of the story. In 2023, Grigorov's grandson, leading a marine exploration expedition, decided to locate his grandfather had cast into the ocean. Armed with advanced technology, the team tracked the exact drop location and sent a submarine to the depths. Finally, they found the box, still bound in its original chains. However, when they raised it to the surface and opened it, the box was empty. The Book of St. Cyprian had vanished, as if some dark force had freed it from its prison. This mystery leaves a haunting question in the air. Where is the Book of St. Cyprian now? Over the centuries, it has proven to be indestructible and elusive, vanishing and reappearing at the most unexpected times, as if driven by a will of its own. Perhaps the book still awaits its next owner, lurking in the shadows, eager to extend its dark influence once again. If you're intrigued by hidden, esoteric knowledge, give this video a like, subscribe, and join us for more in the next one. See you there.